Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining to the second virtual webinar. In this second webinar, we are going to talk, deep dive about multi-tenant Tanzu run with the VMware Cloud Director, VCD. We'll discuss how VMware Cloud Director, a leading, a cloud service delivery platform used by cloud providers, deliver secure, efficient, and then elastic cloud resources to thousands of enterprises across the world. So we'll more, in the next 60 minutes, we'll be covering on VCD as well as Tanzu. How can we, our VCD can help you to run the Tanzu as a multi-tenancy cloud providing. This is going to be agenda for our next 60 minutes. So we'll start with the introduction of the speaker today we have, and then after, I'll hand over to him. So we'll more focus on the VCD, VMware Cloud Director, and then ecosystem, right? So how the architecture evolved with the VCD. Then also we'll talk on more on details about the Tanzu. And then at the end, we also have a demo. So where our presenter will go and the demo route. So how can we go and then use VCD as well as Tanzu on the demo. My name is Roshan. I'm PSO consultant based here in Singapore, covering Southeast Asia and Korea. I'm 4 times VMware expert, vExpert. Then this is my blog. So I'm trying to cover any point which I think right. So we should share with the community. I try to cover that. I'm more focused on the SDDC architecture and design, and based on the VCF VVD. Recently, as you guys know, right, so we are evolving from the VMware perspective. Also, we are evolving towards the more on Kubernetes or modern apps. So I'm trying to onboard myself on Tanzu as well as the TKGI, so which is known as the PKS Pivotal, which VMware has acquired few years ago. We have a very special guest today. I'll say my colleague from the India, Avnish. So Avnish basically he's a staff cloud solution architect based in India, supporting the worldwide cloud practice. He's 5 times VMware vExpert, has a 16 plus years of experience, enterprise experience on the VMware cloud and whether Kubernetes and then AWS. Also, he has been written the many reference architecture from the VMware perspective for mainly focusing on the VCPP. Which we say, VMware cloud provider practice. He also runs, his own blog. So if you, want to follow, just go and then have a look, right? So he covered very, very rich experience, mainly on the VCD as well as the Kubernetes. A specialist in SDDC, cloud, Tanzu, and architecture. Right? So without, wasting my time, I'll hand over to Avnish. So Avnish is going to run the show today. Right. So he'll from here he'll be taking care of that. Avnish, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Roshan. Everybody can hear me, right?
Yes.
Great. So we'll talk about VCD. We'll talk about Tanzu. So vCloud Director is something that was built around 12 years back when the cloud was just starting, and there was no like AWS, Google, or Azure thought of like this cloud. And VMware had a product called vCloud Director, which was basically focusing around self-service provisioning of virtual machines, networks, and everything around that. And for a couple of years, we continued to run that, and then the VMware decided to build their own cloud platform based on VCD, which is called vCloud Air. And we ran that platform for a couple of years, but somehow that did not had a business success. Probably we make it available a little bit early in the market, so it didn't have that success. So we discontinued our vCloud Air, but vCloud Director as a product, we continue to evolve that product. And so what has happened in that, that lots of service providers like telcos or cloud providers, uh, they were using vCloud Director and then offering multi-tenant cloud services to their customers. 2.5 years back, we decided to rewrite this product, re-evolve this product, so that the bigger, I would say the bigger provider globally can utilize the functionality that vCloud Director has, basically the multi-tenancy factor of it. So we rewrote this product around in 2000 H1. We released vCloud Director 9.1, which was much more mature product and offer everything that you can think of from the IaaS perspective. Like you can have a virtual machine automation, networking automation, security automation, and everything in a self-service manner, very similar to what you get on any public cloud platform. And we continue to evolve this in every quarter. So if you see in H1 2018, we released 9.1, H2 2018, we released 9.5, H1 2019, we released 9.7, H2 2019, we released vCloud Director 10. And recently we released, a couple of days back, we released 10.2. And we will talk about all those features that it has with respect to self-service and service delivery platform. So first of all, it is a two-way technology. So you as a cloud provider or as a service provider, you have a portal by which you organize the resources, and then you give it to your tenants based on the organization names or based on the organization VDC. It is very similar to the way like you go to AWS, you get an account, and then you create your VPC, then you create subnets, then you create your virtual machines from a set of templates, you attach to your network, then you attach block storage or couple of storage, whatever that you want to. Very similar to what it is there in this platform. And provider allocates those many resources to the tenant, and tenant start consuming those services. So as of now, today when I'm speaking today, vCloud Director is running around 200,000 virtual machines globally. This is the fourth largest mega cloud based on VMware solution. So AWS is running some thousand of virtual machines, Azure and Google, and then the fourth largest platform is the VMware Cloud Director platform, on which around 200,000 virtual machines are running. And if you see this screen, this tells you the story. All these dots are the cloud providers who are running VMware-based cloud in their own data center and offering cloud services to their tenants, to their customers. You could have a couple of providers in Singapore, you could have a couple of providers in India, you have many providers in Australia, many providers in Japan. Everywhere, every country in this world will have at least minimum 2 to 3 providers who are providing cloud services by VCD. And VCD is the unique platform which doesn't have any competitor in the market. There used to be called OpenStack, which is now no more being used. Everybody, I talk about, I reach out to lots of cloud providers in APAC, and everybody start migrating to vCloud Director. So OpenStack has been, no more in the competition. It is done and dusted. So what it does, with VCD, if you see the left-hand side of this screen, it has a capabilities to run anywhere. So when I'm saying anywhere, it can run on-prem, it can run on VMware Cloud on AWS. It is available today. It is running in cloud provider data center. It can run on Azure and GCP clouds, and it can run on edge, and it can run in any co-location. So unique fabric across anywhere. So once this fabric is set up, then what you can do? You do one-click deployment of your applications. When I'm saying applications, it could be virtual machines and it could be containers. It support multi-site, very similar to availability zones concept. So if you need to do an architecture based on that, it does that. It has by default built-in ingredient, which will allow you to set up a availability zone kind of a construct. Like you can have one availability zone in Singapore, another availability zone in Japan, or maybe in Mumbai in India. So you can have all these kind of capabilities built into the product. It is multi-tenant by worth. The DNA of VCD is multi-tenant. From the version 1.0, if you go back to 7, 6, 8, 9, 10 years back, if you figure out any of the bloggers who wrote this blog around 1.0, the first thing was that it is multi-tenant. So it has a DNA of multi-tenancy and it provides most secure multi-tenancy with respect to network, with respect to storage, with respect to virtual machines, anywhere, or even the containers also. Then it supports cross HDDC elasticity. That means I can have multiple vCenter servers and I can attach all those vCenter server into VCD, and you can build a fabric of elasticity. So you can scale out. You can do busting to different vCenter when your one vCenter is full with lots of virtual machines, and you want to add another vCenter. You can do that. It gives you very good capabilities of metering. That means when you as a customer offering as a solution to the cloud, as a cloud, you should able to meter it. So it gives you an ability to meter virtual machines, a network, storage, ingress and egress, and all the sort of things, firewalling, everything can be metered on this platform. Seamless interoperability. That means now what we have done is we have exposed a VCD as an API endpoint. So all the provider ecosystem, like think about it like vendors, like backup vendors. Think about it like a Zerto, Veeams of the world who can integrate the solution with VCD to offer additional services on top of vCloud Direct. So that's on uh, interoperability, open and extensibility. It gives you metering and chargeback. It can do workflow automation. It can integrate with vRealize Orchestrator. With integration of vRealize Orchestrator, you can orchestrate anything. That means anything as a service. So this is core capabilities within the platform. And then on top of this, if you see the service portfolio, the cloud providers are having a DR capability, so customer can come and opt this as a platform for a disaster recovery or data center extension. So there is a sale which is going on and the customer doesn't have a capabilities to have so many workload during the sale period, so they can burst to a cloud using one of the cloud provider in your country. It supports cloud migration. There is a huge ecosystem of cloud marketplace. It gives you a backup as a service, availability as a service. It gives you very similar to what you get on AWS, like monitoring capabilities with CloudWatch and all. It has in its own integration with vRealize Operations Manager, by which you can have, you can offer and consume monitoring as a service, and then container as a service. So today's topic, when we talk about, container a bit more in deep, how we can offer multi-tenant container as a service to your customers and how you can consume as a tenant. Okay. So this is complete flexibility when you as a provider, you try to offer compute to your tenants, which model that you want to offer it, pay as you go or allocations pool or reservation pools. So pay as you go means there is nothing committed from the tenant side. You go and then consume based on your requirement, and that's the way the cloud works. So that's the by default model. And then we have allocation pool. Allocation means, let's suppose there is a customer who comes to a provider and he says, I need this much of capacity, like 1000 gigahertz processor, 1 TB RAM. You can, whether I am running virtual machines or not, I need that much of capacity. So you can commit that capacity as a provider and get this entire allocation reservation pools. That's like almost a guaranteed capacity that is there. And with the recent version of VCD, we also launched flex allocation. So flex allocation means what it does is it gives you ability to overcommit the resources based on your choice. Now think of a scenario like when a customer goes to AWS and Azure or Google, and he provision a one virtual machine with one vCPU. Does anybody get to know what is the megahertz that he's going to get with one vCPU? Whether the AWS is giving 500 or whether AWS is giving 1 gig or 2.2 gig or 2 gig, how much? They have hide that allocation. So that's why you get various offerings, and some of them are cheaper, some of them are expensive, and right, and some of them you have to pay extra money for that. So all this has been hidden on their portal. Very similar capabilities can be done on VCD with flex allocation model, where you can commit, where you can overcommit your CPU megahertz or memories. Okay, so these are the core allocation model that you will, as a tenant, you will consume, or as a provider, you will offer to your tenants. So now everybody's talking about Terraform. Everybody love automations. So what we have done is now VCD supports Terraform. That means any tenant or any provider who want to do something like infrastructure as a code, utilizing Terraform, they are free to use. VCD support Terraform since last 9.5 version, and it is evolving day by day. So what you can do, you can deploy your all infrastructure within the code, and that will be a repetitive infrastructure as a code. So you write a single code like how to create, how to onboard a tenant, and use the same code to onboard your multiple tenants. Or your tenant can write a code like how to deploy a web app DB, and that code can be utilized by multiple application owners. So it gives you all that flexibility. You do not need to go to portal, and you can do everything that you can think of. It can create virtual data center, publish network policies, or anything that you can think of from the infrastructure perspective. So that's on Terraform. Please feel free to put your questions into the chat window so that we can answer those questions. From the security perspective, think of it. This VCD is integrated with NSXT or NSXV, and it offers you everything that you get on a self-service manner on a cloud. It gives you VPN, L3 IPsec. It gives you VPN L2. It gives you an SD-WAN. It gives you edge firewall. Edge firewall is a north-south firewall, so that when your application is being accessed from the internet, it is protected. So anything which is coming from internet is being firewalled by edge firewall. Then we have a distributed firewall. That means micro segmentation. Same segment, you are putting a firewall for your virtual machine. So zero trust security. What we are trying to say is, I don't trust my neighbor. So that's the thing that is available with distributed firewall. Then we have a context-aware microsegmentation. We also support URL filtering. We have a next-gen antivirus. We have intrusion detection, IPS and IDS. Very recently launched with NSXT, and that is available as a self-service to the tenants. It also offers you web application firewall, which is not self-service, but yes, you can utilize that as a manual way. So these are the capabilities from the networking perspective. Think of any cloud that you have today. These are the services. Maybe you might have a less services than this on a public cloud compared to what is VCD based cloud providers are offering from cloud offering perspective. So this on the security perspective that we offer on the VCD. Now, protection. So first thing is vSphere by default comes with high availability. The second thing is you can integrate Cloudian, Delhi CS, native S3, AWS S3, any S3, object storage with VCD. And then providers can offer storage as a service, or enterprise can offer to their departments storage as a service or object storage as a service with the integration of all these partners. So big ecosystem that we are building on that side. And then for the data protection, backup of your virtual machines, backup and restore, it is available with Dell data protection. And there are many more data protection vendor which is certified with VCD. So as a provider, you can use any of these backup solution to integrate with VCD, and that will become like a self-service backup and restore capabilities to your tenants, to your workforce. We also have another product which is called vCloud Director Availability, which is basically a cloud version of SRM. So what it does, you will have two availability zone. One availability zone in Singapore, second availability zone in Thailand, and then you set up both the side vCloud Director and vCloud Availability, and then for Singapore customer workload, Thailand could be your DR site, or Thailand workload could be a DR site on a Singapore, and you can do everything that you can do with the SRM, very similar to SRM with vCloud Availability. It gives you testing facilities. No cloud provider like Azure, AWS, Google gives you capabilities to test the DR capabilities or test the DR on the cloud, right? You have to build it manually. Here, what we are giving you an automated way of doing a DR and the testing of a DR on the cloud. So with vCloud Availability, you can do all that. You can test it in an isolated network. You get good reporting capabilities, and it can support VApps and VM and everything that you can think of. So that's on high availability. Then most important thing for the today's discussion is that containers. So vCloud Director now offers you, not only you can run virtual machines, you can run containers. And when I'm saying containers, it can run containers from all the offerings of VMware. That means it can run PKS based container, it can run VCD based native containers, and it can run Tanzu based containers. So that's on the container. Now on the left side, if you see this image where you see Redmine, Apache, GitLab, this is the catalog which is coming out of our Bitnami integration. So let's suppose if your developer has deployed a container, but on top of container, he needs an application, right? So where he would go? Usually what they do, they figure out where is the Helm chart and then pick up the Helm chart and then install it manually on that container, on the Kubernetes cluster. But what we are offering you, this catalog, it's available free of cost on VCD. So what your developer will do, he will get into the catalog, click on anything, like if he want Kafka or RabbitMQ or a Redis, he click on that, he select which Kubernetes cluster it needs to be deployed and click deploy. And this get deployed automatically in self-service manner to a Kubernetes cluster. And I will give you a demo on that, how easy to consume this entire ecosystem of open source product or Bitnami images with VCD and the Kubernetes Tanzu integration. We'll give you a demo on that. So here it is. You can have a different groupings like integration code, DevOps, develop app, automate, and you can define basically what we are trying to say is that you can put all this into buckets. So like one bucket is integrated code, one bucket is develop code. So you can tag with all these bucket names, and then these applications get into that bucket, and then you start offering as a service to your customers. So this is a little bit GUI with respect to VRO integration. So let's suppose if you have something which is not there in VCD and you want to automate, like think of your own personal developed tool for your organizations. So what we have done is we have opened this ecosystem so you can integrate. So here in this screen, if you see, I have integrated my ticketing solution with VCD. Right. In the second screen, I can have different tiles. If you see sub dashboard section, and then we have a VRO integration. VROps integration. This is coming out of my uh, open API system that we have exposed with the VCD. So think of this. So this is coming out of my VRO with open integration. So I am picking up a workflow from from VRO, and then publishing as a catalog item to my customers. Here, if you see, I'm publishing this open ticket. So customer click on execute, it opens a new window, and then you write your ticketing information, your tenant write ticketing information, and then it goes, throws a ticket into their bin, and then their team can, go ahead and start doing a task based on the ticket that has been opened. So that's on VRO integration. These are some of the backup certifications. So EMC, Rubric, Commvault, Cohesity, Veeam, all these products are certified with vCloud Director to offer backup as a service. Backup and restore, this is self-service. Backup and restore. I talked about this one-click DR with vCloud availability, which is effectively attached by default into VCD platform. You just need to install it, and then you can offer or you can consume as a DR as a service from the Cloud Director self-service perspective. So if you are a tenant, or if you want to consume cloud services, what we have is these VMware Cloud verified partners is spread across globally. So if you figure out in Singapore, go to VMware website and figure out, search VMware Cloud verified partners, you will get a listing of partners who are available or providing cloud services into your market. So you can go back, check the VMware website, search for VMware Cloud verified partners, and you will see there are lots of partners who are providing and offering cloud services running based on VMware platform. Now, core topic that we are talking about. So Kubernetes now become our first class entity in VCD ecosystem. And we'll give you a demo of this. So number one, providers can now create Kubernetes capacity in vSphere 7 cluster as a policy to dictate the resource placement, infrastructure quality, and persistent volume storage classes. So what I'm trying to say that you can offer various bucket of services like premium, platinum, gold, silver kind of policies, and you publish these policies to your tenants, and they consume these policies based on the type of SLA attached to these policies. So if there is a developer who is developing an application and he needs a developer based lesser SLA Kubernetes cluster, he can provision that. Or if he needs to run a production ready Kubernetes cluster, then he can opt for a premium tier, capacity tier, or premium tier solution. With the product name which is making this possible is called CSE. CSE is now 3.0, and it supports multiple versions, in which I will show you in the demo. Now, providers can enable orchestration of care cluster of any type of VCD as a unified platform, and then tenant can do any sort of things with respect to adding additional nodes into Kubernetes cluster, by a CLI, by an API, or by an GUI. All this is self-service mode is available to your tenants. We support lifecycle management of Kubernetes cluster, so we do it automatically from the backend. your tenant doesn't need to worry about, and the provider, he just need to do a couple of things to make sure that LCM works perfectly fine. You, in case if your tenant want to upgrade Kubernetes cluster, we are allow you to upgrade your Kubernetes cluster via GUI, via API, and via CLI. You, if you want to, control the tenant boundary by capacity, by networking, by security, by storage policies, that's available by default in the DNA of VCD. And yes, this is isolated at L3 level because every customer will get their own cluster, so they can consume that cluster based on their requirement, whatever they have it. So that's on VCD, very high level on VCD. I'll take a pause if there is any question on the VCD. Feel free to send a question on the chat. And if there is no question, then I get into the Tanzu portfolio of it. So Tanzu is basically a suite of product. And what it does is it allow a customer to build modern apps. It allow you to run enterprise Kubernetes, and it will allow you to manage Kubernetes from anywhere. So the three pillars of Tanzu is build, run, and manage. So what comes in the build? Build comes out of your acquisition from Pivotal and Bitnami's, where they offer set of products by which your developers build the code. So that's on build. And then run comes from our Kubernetes integration with vSphere. So vSphere now has a Kubernetes engine embedded into the hypervisor, which I will give you a demo. And then we have a VMware PKS, which is now has been rebranded as a TKG, Tanzu Kubernetes Grid. So these are the two variations to run your Kubernetes clusters. So you build your applications, you run your applications, and once you build and running, how will you manage it? That's where it comes to the third pillar is called manage, which we'll talk about a little bit on manage side of it. We have a product called Tanzu Mission Control, TMC, which allow you to manage Kubernetes cluster anywhere deployed. It could have been deployed into Azure, Google, AWS, on VMware, on VCD, on-prem, anywhere. And it can manage that Kubernetes cluster from the perspective of security, from the perspective of lifecycle management, from the perspective of backup of their applications, everything from a single consoles. Very, very compelling story on and a product on management of Kubernetes clusters. Right. So we talk about this run. Main focus is run in this presentation. So within the run, we have two flavors: vSphere 7 with Kubernetes. That means Kubernetes is embedded into vSphere. That means the Kubernetes control plane is running in the vSphere vCenter. It doesn't need to, you don't need to create multiple virtual machines to set up a Kubernetes cluster. It is by default enabled into the kernel of vSphere. And then we have a second flavor called VMware Tanzu Kubernetes Grid, which is having, a Kubernetes cluster can be deployed on top of vSphere 7 or on Azure or on AWS or on Google or any cloud. So that's where Tanzu Kubernetes Grid comes on. So which can be deployed on any platform across the globe. So this is a technical architecture. This is API driven. The control plane remains local. It is with vCenter or could be on a VM. And it uses a very important factor called cluster API. If you do a Google today, there's an open source cluster API project, which is being used by many vendors. So we are using this cluster API, but with lots of modification to, by VMware to make it, compatible with VMware. On top of this, we are running Kubernetes, and which is being managed by Tanzu Mission Control. And on top of Kubernetes, you can run anything with respect to OSS or customer workloads. So let me build this. So think about it. So your developer who want to write a code, and once the code is written, he want to push that code to a Git, and from the Git it get deployed as a container or as a VM, and he doesn't want to know anything about how this ESXi work, how this vCenter work, what is storage, and what is all this things related to infrastructure. He know how to write a code, and he know how to package that code. So to give that experience to the developer, we have this thing called vSphere 7 with Kubernetes, and your or vSphere admin, they can continue to manage vCenter, ESXi, virtual machine, networking, pods, Kubernetes from infrastructure perspective. So two different personas, one dedicatedly for developers. So you as a developer run your code with kubectl or whatever the way you want to run it commands, and then IT operations, they will do IT operations similarly the way they were doing it since so many years. So we'll give you this demo on how this works. This is a use case of Tanzu Kubernetes cluster. It is supported by upstream Kubernetes. Configurable control plane, so you can control plane change it whenever you need it. If your user needs a cluster level access, then you can create Tanzu Kubernetes cluster. End user can deploy any specific K8 versions, and it supports cluster level tenancy model. Little bit on vSphere with Kubernetes. So if you see this screen, there is a developer who is trying to deploy applications. He can deploy application as a native pods or a Kubernetes cluster or a virtual machines, while your IT operator, he can manage your vCenter, storage, networking, supervisor Kubernetes cluster on running on top of vSphere, and then the pods and application and everything on that. So we are merging these two scenarios into single console called vCenter. So your IT admin or IT operator will continue to operate your vCenter the way they were operating it. And now developer can also come and connect to your Kubernetes cluster and do whatever they want to do with respect to Kubernetes cluster. So this is one of the things that we are doing with Kubernetes cluster, is that we allow your developer to deploy their own Kubernetes cluster using a very simple YAML format, the way they were deploying pod in a YAML format. So that's what it is we are offering with respect to a Kubernetes cluster on top of your vSphere. And your developer doesn't need to come to an IT operator or to raise a ticket to that I need a Kubernetes cluster with this configuration, right? He can go ahead and he can write similar YAML, the same YAML that he has written multiple times to deploy a pod or deploy a container. He can write a code to deploy a Kubernetes cluster also. So this is a simple YAML file which describes like which classes, storage class, virtual machine class, what gonna be the network, name servers, and what version that you want, and he can just post kubectl create Tanzu cluster, and it goes ahead and create a Tanzu Kubernetes cluster. So that's what it is coming out of this integration. Okay, this we will cover in the demo. So I will show you where is the control plane and where is the virtual machines and all. Let me see what is the time that we have. We have 15 minutes remaining. So we will quickly touch upon a couple of important points and then we get into the demo immediately. So it's better, Roshan, we should get into demo. I think everything I'm going to cover all these things into demo. What do you think?
Yes, okay. Yeah, so.
Yeah? Wait a minute, let me share the screen again. Okay, so can you see my screen, guys? This is demo pod.
Yeah, we can say.
Yes, so let me log into my vCenter. So this is your own vCenter, right? This is your vCenter. You have a cluster, workload cluster, WCP public cluster. These are the two cluster which is having two ESXi host, and I have a management cluster which is name is cluster, where I have running NSX and vCloud Director and multiple controllers and all. So if you see here, to enable a Kubernetes cluster, you have to go to menu. You have to go to workload management, which is basically enablement of Kubernetes cluster. And it takes you to this screen. So if you go to clusters, you can go and add a cluster. It gives you an option. Either you can choose a NSXT integrated cluster, Kubernetes cluster, or you can choose vCenter network, which is your distributed switch based networking cluster. So if I choose NSXT, and then I have already deployed, so it will not give me the option. But basically here it gives you an options to choose the cluster, which cluster do you want to, enable the Kubernetes. So this will enable the Kubernetes. Once the Kubernetes are enabled, it will look like this like this. So you have a cluster which is running, which is having control plane IP of this. So what you need to do is you have to log in this control plane IP. So I'm logging here onto this control plane. See this. So I'm doing a kubectl vSphere login -- server, that IP 172.16.100.1, and I say login. So when I say login, it will ask me my user ID and password. I am giving admin ID, but you can define your different user ID based on the different type of uh, permissions that you can want to give it to your users. So you can have a different user ID and password, but this is my lab, so I'm giving this user ID and password. Let me paste it. I'm not good with DOS, but let me try that. So once I done the login, so I have running multiple clusters. So I have to switch the context. So which cluster I want to work. So there is a normal Kubernetes command, ctl config use context, and I will use key at private -k3 xip k3 xip k3 xip. Okay, so I switch to this. If you see left hand side, this namespace k3 xip. Now see the magic. So I'm going to, this is your developer experience, which I'm telling you. So a developer says, I need to run an Nginx pod. So what I'm doing is kubectl run Nginx hyphen hyphen image equal to Nginx. Okay. Now when I click enter, I request all of you to focus here in this area where my mouse is moving. Roshan, can you see my mouse movement?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, so just keep an eye here while I'm running this command. What you saw?
Yeah, so it's executed that one, and then we have new pod up and running.
We created a pod, which is now visible, very similar to what you see as a VM in vCenter. This is the pod. This is Nginx. So a developer, he get into this, he says, oh, my pod is running. For a developer, he just need to focus on his Kubernetes things. He doesn't need to focus on infrastructure side of it. While you as an infrastructure, you just need to focus on an infrastructure. And if you see here, you have this capabilities of seeing these pods here. Now, if I go into little bit into this namespace, now see this. You see this pod, this is namespace is having current status is running, it is active. I can assign lots of permissions. I can give him storage. I can limit the resource, right? And if I need to go a little bit more, I can monitor what has happened to this cluster, who is doing what. So somebody created by using kubectl kubelet to created a pod. I can also check vCenter events with respect to this particular activity. If I go a little bit ahead, I can see what is running in this cluster. What is the resource limit that has been specified? I can change the limits. I can limit the objects, how many number of pods he can run, how many deployments he can run, how many jobs he can run. You can do all this by going here. No platform gives this kind of capabilities and possibilities to the infrastructure guys. So this becomes truly a hybrid infrastructure and developer experience. So you can do all this here. Then you can manage the permissions. You can see what is running. So I'm running an Nginx pod. I can see the YAML file of this. I can see the cluster IP of this. I can see the deployment. I can see the daemon sets. I can see all those things which is running, right? I can get into the storage. I can see what is the storage policies are, how many persistent volumes claims has been done, and it attached to which network. Now I'll show you one more thing. I'm not doing anything, right? This is by default setup in vCenter. I will expose this pod as a service. So I'm saying kubectl expose pod nginx type equal to load balancer port is 80. That means I am exposing my developer is exposing the applications, a web application on port 80 with type load balancer. What has happened? If you see here kubectl get svc get service, it has given me one IP, external IP 172.16.103. This is developer experience. He picks up the IP and he click here and go click here. Nginx is over. Nginx is running. All that complexity that you have on a public cloud or anywhere, we made it so simple with this portfolio. Right. Let's suppose if this customer, he wants to run a persistent application. That means he need a persistent disk. So I created a YAML file, very simple YAML file for persistent storage. I'll show you this. Where it is. and store. So this is a very simple file, persistent volume claim, IPVC and WCP 3 GB. I'm saying I need 3 GB of storage. Now what I'm doing is, now developer is going to create this persistent storage. kubectl apply -f store.yaml. So I'm applying this file. I request all of you to see here on the recent task. Did you notice something? It created a
Yes.
virtual disk object. It updated the container volume. Now, if I go here and see in the storage, if I go to persistent volume claims, so now it is here. I attached a volume to this namespace of 3 GB, which is having a permission of read and write once. So while your developer is doing all this on a Kubernetes container platform in a CLI format, but you have that as an infrastructure admin or infrastructure team, you have all that visibility into your vCenter. This is unique. Nobody has done this kind of innovation. Nobody. Is so much of simplicity. That's our mantra of VMware when we brought vCenter, when we brought all that flexibility, no command lines, nothing. You have a vCenter, that's a single management plane. You get everything on that plane. Any question? So SM Didarul Abedin is saying, as till date, TKG is not supported on a stretch cluster, then how this will be addressed for a stretch cluster environment. Buddy, we are working heavily on that, and this should be very soon available in the product. I don't see a big challenge on that. We have to do a couple of things on from the vCenter perspective, and then it should be good.
Yeah, just want to add, right? So I understand that's where you're coming from. So recently we are working for this engagement in Bangladesh, right? So where the customer has the requirement to have the stretch cluster. So yeah, today we haven't certified it. That's why we say we don't support it. But in the next few months, right? So in the next release, you'll see that, right? So we'll be supporting Kubernetes on a stretch cluster as well.
Yeah. Is there any question? If you want to talk about something, I can open the mic for you, so you can speak.
So I'm allowing everyone to talk. If you have any question, please feel free to ask.
Yeah, this your forum. It's nothing special, right?
Yeah, you can
You ask the questions.
unmute yourself and you can ask the question. We have 5 more minutes for questions.
Yeah, thanks for your answer. And any specific timeline that the customer will have this feature available, as saying that some testing is going on at your end?
I don't have this as of now, but why don't you do one thing? You drop me an email or drop Roshan an email. We will revert back you on the timelines of this availability of this feature.
Yeah, Avnish. So yeah, I'm SM, right? So I'm aware of your requirement, right? So we already check with our engineering, but with respect to the VCF, right? So because your current engagement is on VCF, so VCF team is testing on that. So currently will not be able to answer when it's coming, but it's in roadmap is coming soon.
Okay. Anything specific that you want to see before, because we do not have a much time left. I'll just want to show you one more thing. Like now to make it multi-tenant. Now I show you, but I cannot give every customer a vCenter access. So what my cloud providers are doing across the globe is like this. So what they are doing is, so we have given this self-service mode of it. Okay, so let me open one incognito window where I will see ENT/WWCP, and I will log in. So I log in as a tenant, as I log in as a tenant, and if I go into VCD, so I get this option called Kubernetes Container Cluster. So I come here. Now here I can go to new, and I have a two option. One is native. Native means within the VCD, and this has nothing to do with TKG. So you as a tenant, you can come and VCD will provision a Kubernetes cluster for you automatically. But the limitation is it will be a single master and there will not be any persistent volume coming out of vSphere. It is NFS based. And then the second option is vSphere with Tanzu, which I showed you. High availability, multi-master persistent volume. So let's go ahead and let's create a cluster here. Okay. So I'm giving a name. I'm saying demo 0404. I'm moving ahead. I select which virtual data center. So I have two data centers. One is private, one is public. So let's say I'm going to public. Then I see which Kubernetes policies. Basically, policies is linked to versions. So see the listing of versions. So I can expose any number of versions which is available on vSphere into my VCD platforms, which has 16, it has 17, it has 18, and probably very soon, maybe a couple of weeks from here, we will have a 19 also. So your provider, your customer as a tenant, he choose version. This is self-service portal for your tenants. Now here you decide which type of control plane. Control plane, one virtual machine, or high availability, 3 virtual machines, number of worker nodes, which class, right? I need small, extra large, extra small. So he has this options to choose, various options, various
Go ahead.
basically T-set size.
Go ahead, SM. He has some question, yeah.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, sorry to bother you in the middle of a presentation.
No problem.
When you select vSphere Kubernetes, it has some, as seen, it has some features like high availability and multi-master. So how many master will be deployed, and does the customer have to manage the control plane components, or it will be managed by itself, or means the own self?
So both the options. So you will have a minimum 3 control plane, and the choice is with customers. If you are a managed service provider, you can take the control of your control plane. That means 3 masters, or you can allow your customers to manage it, the control plane. We don't do something like public cloud where my control plane is controlled by the cloud providers and then they only manage the nodes. That's not the case with us. We allow both the things. It's up to you as a customer or as a provider, your choice, which type of cluster their customer wants. I have seen that there are customers who are mature enough to manage the control plane, then they are managing it, which comes as a lesser cost compared to there are customers who do not know how to manage a control plane and lifecycle management. Then they go for a managed services options where managed service provider are making money out of managing those things. Does this answer your question?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. So here, that's what I'm saying. Here you have a choice. You can decide number of best minimum is 3. So, or sorry, maximum is 3, minimum is 1. So I'm going with that. And then I choose my storage class. So in here, you can have a different storage classes. You can have a platinum, you can have a gold, silver, bronze, and all. And that's it. Once you're done, you can finish. This is created. It will take a couple of around 10-15 minutes, then cluster get created. Now, once the cluster is get created, your developer goes here, he download the kube config from the self-service portal. And as of now, it is 1. If he want to resize it, he can do the resize. Today, we do not have auto scale into this. We are bringing in the next version, which is very soon available in couple of months with auto scale capabilities on Kubernetes cluster. So this is what we are giving, and lots of cloud providers, specifically in this region, like Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, Singapore, Australia, Japan, they are running their clouds based on VCD, and which gives you this capabilities of self-service mode of Kubernetes cluster. One more quick thing is, once this Kubernetes cluster is deployed, now with App Launchpad, what we have is called App Launchpad. We give you this catalog of all the applications which is available in a Bitnami catalog. So if you see Apache, ASP.NET, Cassandra, Console, Contour, anything. Now what I'll do, now you're a developer, I am a developer, I need Apache on my Kubernetes cluster. So I click launch. Now I give a name, this is my Apache. Then which Kubernetes cluster? So I have 2 Kubernetes cluster, private, public. So I say public, and then it goes ahead and get deployed. I launch this application, goes ahead and deploys Apache into my Kubernetes cluster automatically. That means your developer doesn't need to do manual going into Kubernetes console and do it for you. No, it is done. It is deployed. So we make it very simple with vCloud Director and Tanzu portfolio. Any question?
Yeah, just one last question. Let's say a developer want to use like any CI/CD pipeline. So what this VCD will provide the developer?
Yeah. So there are two concepts in CI/CD. So let's suppose there will be customer who need a private CI/CD. So in the private CI/CD, what you can do, you can deploy the contour or whatever things that you think which is harbor as a registry. You can have a private Git. So I have a Git here. I have a, if you see, I had Git on this. So what you can do, or a tenant can do, he can have their own private Git. So basically Git is to push the code, and then you can have a Spinnaker or you can have a Nginx to do a CI/CD out of it, right? So he can deploy both the things into this Kubernetes, into this VCD, and then they can push that code to their private registry, to the Git. From the Git, it goes to a private registry, to Jenkins, to private registry, to the Kubernetes cluster. That can be done. Or if you want to utilize the public space of it, like Git or public Git or public Docker Hub, that is also possible. Because in a CI/CD, most of the things are connected directly to Kubernetes cluster. It has nothing to do with your VCD control plane or on Apache or AWS control plane or a Google control plane, because you do a CI/CD directly on a Kubernetes cluster.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's all very much possible, and both the way, private and public, up to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, so we are
The hour.
yes, exactly, dot 1 hour, few minutes. It was really, awesome, Avnish, right? So really we had a good session, interactive way to, with a few customers from Bangladesh. Really appreciate your questions and, to clear the questions online. So thank you guys. Thank you so much everyone to joining for the second webinar. Do feel free to email us, right? or provide your feedback, right? So, or if you have any specific topic that you want to, us to come and then present, So because I'm trying to run this monthly webinar, so where I'm trying to cover not only the, VM perspective, also the, the modern application perspective. So maybe in the next month, right? So we'll try to get something again on VCF with Kubernetes. I'm planning to, because I got a few requests on that. So feel free to provide if you have any topic that you want to cover us. So we'll try to cover in the next webinar. Thank you for your time. And thank you so much, Avnish, for coming up and, partnership and then coming and sharing your knowledge with us. Thank you so much, everyone.